Well, good morning, Liberal Kansas, Southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and all other places where you tune in to get your news and views from the middle of America. This Roll the Leader in Times on Tuesday, November 11th, Veterans Day. Joining me as always on the far side, Jim Rice, Seward County Commissioner Todd Stanton, and so we want to lead off by saying thank you to all the veterans who've served, and thank you for your service. I know it sounds cliche when you say freedom isn't free, but it is. It's been paid for and protected. And as Ronald Reagan said, we're only one generation away from losing it. Perhaps that's happened in New York City. We'll find out. But we do thank everyone who served, and especially those in our community. I want to say thank you to the American Legion and the service they provide back to our community, and the American patriotism that they show. So I'm sure we all join together in saying we appreciate our veterans.
I think they have those, don't they go to cemeteries today and have their little presentation?
I think they did on Memorial Day.
Okay.
I do think they're having some veterans event, and I know the hospital, and we put this up, I think you can get lunch today at the hospital cafeteria.
All right.
And veterans, just look down on the Facebook, and I think you'll see that post. It'll explain how that works. But we just want to make sure that we don't let this go without saying thank you to our veterans on Veterans Day. November 11th was the Armistice Day of World War I.
Used to be known as Armistice Day.
Yep.
I hadn't heard that for a long time. I kind of forgot that's what Mom always called it.
And we thought that was the war to end all wars.
Till the next one.
Until the next one, which wasn't that long after. But you found out it's not just enough to win the war, you have to win the peace, and learned a lot from the failures of post-World War I and didn't repeat those in post-World War II. And then you're seeing today land grabs in Europe that I thought I'd never see in my lifetime. I figured that the borders were set. Not so fast. There's still people who want someone else's land. And so
that even happens around here.
Yeah. Got some of that going on. Well, Todd, yesterday I shared a chart with the community, did a little research, also had some help from the Kansas Policy Institute. Mm-hmm. They provided some data, and so I want to thank them. But I showed this chart with the public yesterday, and I'll let you take a look at it. And what this shows is, and I could have went back further, but I just started in 2019. The county had $2.3 million surplus, or cash reserves. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Unencumbered cash on hand, another way to say it. And that grew. 4.06, 5.13, 5.92, 6.91, and $7.68 million in the bank.
Sounds good.
Until the new commission had their first budget at the beginning of 24. They started with the $7.68 million on January 1, but by the end of their first year, 5.16. And now, coming up on the end of their second year, we're going to be down to 2.37. And if their budget holds the way that they're projecting it, their own numbers, we're going to be down to $80,000 in the bank after that. So how do you respond? You're a commissioner, you see these numbers. I mean,
it's an interesting way to look at the numbers. It's certainly nothing that's ever presented to the commission by the administration, and I guess it kind of puts paid to the theory that former commissions and commissioners did this to us, because that's not what it looks like from my perspective. Looks like this little fiscal crisis is homegrown with the current commission.
I mean, there's the numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you, these are, and I just want people to know, these are numbers. This is a county produced document, right? I didn't type this up. This is how you guys present the budget numbers to the public. And this is 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 budget years. You have to use those to get to the actuals 2 years prior, because that's how you guys. So you have to have the 21 budget to see what you actually did in 2019. It takes that long before the public actually gets to see the actual numbers. And so just this chart is not made from hypotheticals or that. Now the last year, you see the asterisk on that because that's if they carry out
Well, it's
their
just
own
a
wishes.
projection at this point.
Yeah. If you follow through with what they said, that's what'll happen. But every one of those years leading up to that is right here in black
Well,
and white.
This doesn't surprise me. During the budget process, at one point we were talking about using some graphics for something, so I got some numbers from our auditor, Dustin, and started looking at them, graphing them out, and I finally just had to tell folks, this graph isn't going to work because what it actually shows is not a need, but fiscal mismanagement. So, and here you see it writ large.
Yeah.
And in rather shocking detail for such a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it like trying to roll a ball up a hill is harder. It's harder to get that ball up the hill because you're fighting gravity, you're fighting everything, and yet those commissions did that. They not only covered all the costs of the needs, but they actually put money in the bank and did that. And they did that with lower mill rates. And in one of those years, they actually lowered it 4 mills and still climbed the hill.
I'm curious where that actually occurred on the graph, between which 2 years that 4 mil drop was. Do you know?
I think it's between 21 and 22 budgets, 5.13 and 5.92. So they still were able to put $800,000 in the bank with a mill decrease. And you can see they still climbed the hill. And then you can see what's happened since, and look, I'm just stating a fact. This happened when Tammy Sutherland Abbott, Scott Carr, and Persephone Fuller were elected. They inherited $7.68 million when they became commissioners. Matter of fact, that budget, the budget of the year 2024 was the first year that they got to set the numbers. So at the beginning of that year, they inherited 7.68. So then at the end of their first year, they bumped that. They didn't add to the reserve. They actually spent over $2 million, almost 2.5 million.
Was there any significant special project in that year?
No, I mean, there's no building, there's no major repair, there's nothing. Now, if you want to say the claim that was made was that to put $500,000 towards the reserve for claims, but you look at their budget and it's a zero. It's not till the next year that you see $1 million.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that would have occurred between the 5.36 and 2.37. Okay. And then the 1.5 more mills would occur between the 2.37 and the 0.08. Okay? And what we heard on this show right here was that they really didn't need to do that because Conestoga will work with you on a payback. But, that, so this cannot be blamed on Conestoga. This cannot be blamed on the previous commissions overtaxing Conestoga, because this is over $5 million in spending, and they can only attribute
spending above revenue.
Right, they can only attribute $2.5 million at the most, and they will have spent by the end of their third budget year $7.6 million above all costs. So if you put 2.5, that's still $5.1 million of reserve that they've spent, has nothing to do with a repayment of overtaxation.
Well, and it's nothing different than, sad to say, Topeka or Washington, just spending beyond what's coming in the front door.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, Todd, is if you do another year, these guys will do another budget. They will do the 27 budget because they'll be at the end of 26 next year, and they're going to put the 27 budget together. If you have nothing in the bank, how are you, if you continue to budget like this, how are you going to pay the bills?
Well, you simply won't be able to. And I think we've had a situation last year that really didn't come to light until recently, at least not to my knowledge. You know, people are hoping that we get return to revenue neutral for this year, which I think is a better than 50-50 proposition at this point. That's the revenue side. That doesn't address the spending side. And I think what was discovered was last year when the county was returned to revenue neutral, 2 days later they went ahead and passed a spending budget that was essentially what they had already planned to spend. There was very little, if any, reduction in actual expenditures. And that's what has caused the problem here,
And I think,
at least for the current fiscal year.
yeah, and I think it's key what you said is there's very little different in expenditures. The claim will be, oh no, we lowered the budget. But they haven't been spending budget. The budget is really a joke because you guys have so big numbers in the budget that you never reach anyway.
Yes,
For
correct.
most categories. So your spending authority, you know, you give yourself, you know, a lot of spending authority, but you don't bring in near enough money to fund that authority.
Well, I mean, isn't it a lot like Washington? They like to talk about appropriations.
Right.
There's no budget. There's an appropriation made, and the revenue side isn't even discussed. And that's kind of the way things operate in Seward County, frankly.
Yeah, so yesterday I was speaking with Kansas Policy Institute, who were now on the radar of the Kansas Policy Institute. And they did some numbers and was discussing. And so I asked you to join in that conversation as a county commissioner so that you could listen in and maybe help provide some information as that discussion was going on. And I want you to respond because to a couple things, but one thing we discussed was you during the campaign talked about the budget process is really not good. It's not really a budget process. And yesterday, the Kansas Policy Institute rep said, we don't really budget. We do, these are appropriation meetings. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts here they are saying the same thing.
Look, it's a known problem, and when people don't want to address the issue, it's very difficult to move things forward and reform a process that, in my view, is very clearly dysfunctional. It's certainly not leaving us with a type of budgetary restraint or just fiduciary responsibility as a commissioner. You don't do this. You cannot do this to the public, but yet this is what we do.
He mentioned one county where he went in with them and worked with them and changed that process, and that they were able to cut $7 million and yet not affect one service of the county by going in and instead of just appropriating funds being requested, they actually looked into every department and said, how are we operating? How do we do things? What other ways are there to do these things? And
well, and not to get too technical, but to divide all your expenditures into 3 big categories, and one of those categories you just do away with. And it was truly fascinating to me that this county had no reduction in services, a $7 million reduction, and no one was harmed.
yeah.
No animals were harmed in the making of that budget.
Yeah. And so it can be done, and it is being done elsewhere in Kansas. Some places are looking to do that. And so I thought that was interesting. But I wrote a column before all of this was passed, and I said that there are going to be changes at the state, and Seward County could be the reason these things happen if they pass a budget like this. What did you hear yesterday from the Kansas Policy
I heard
Institute?
the very same comment, that Seward County will be the poster child for things we don't want to be the child for, and the impetus for some reforms that are already being discussed.
And just for the record, I did not contact the Kansas Policy Institute. They contacted me. And they said, Earl, can we have a phone call?
In
Because,
fact, you showed me that email.
Yeah.
Earl, we got to talk.
yeah. because I'm like, okay, and they said, and here's some data you want to look at, and already sent some data that they had been seeing. He said the talk around the state is Seward County, and he said all the numbers aren't in right now. They have to get in by a certain date to the state of all these different deals, but he's pretty sure Seward County is going to be the tax leader in Kansas.
Yeah, isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah, and so you look at this and you'd wonder why. Why are we the tax leader when for years we covered our expenses? And Jim, I look back to your term because Steve Helm came on after you. And so he just got reelected in 24, so he came on in 20. So you were responsible for the 19, 20, and the 21 beginning balance. And then their first budget, because they would have took office in 21, you would have already done that budget. So you actually left them that $5.93 million for Todd's first budget. Now this is before
not my first budget.
I'm sorry, for Steve's first budget.
I had no such luck.
So that was Steve's first budget that they started with 5.93, and so he worked from there. And so then 2 more years, 6.91, 7.68, and then the trio came on. And then you see the effects of what the budgets have done since the trio have come on. But those first 3 on that line are something you're responsible for. I mean, you talked about having $1 million in the bank, but you guys helped raise over get up to 5.9.
I didn't realize that, until I seen this chart, and I watched the show yesterday when you were showing this, and I thought, wow, that's a lot of dollars. The first thing that came to mind was, I always thought we tried to keep around $1 million reserve, start over, roll over, whatever you want to call it. And that was usually sufficient for about anything that came along. And I don't know, I don't know why that grew. If it grew, somebody commented that, well, that was, maybe for a new EMS building. Well, if that's the case, then that money should have went into the building fund, an EMS building fund. But, the rest of that, and even part of that, that $5 million, to me, I kind of look at that as overtaxation. Because if you're rolling over, that kind of money every year, that says to me that you over budgeted and there's no reason that you should build that kind of reserve. That's the people's money that's doing that, and if you can build in those first 3 years, and I don't remember what the mill levy was, but we watched that or tried to watch that really close, and if it went up a mill or two, that was kind of a heartbreaker. But on the other hand, I think probably it did go up a little bit. The mill did, but I didn't realize that we were leaving that kind of a surplus. As rollover, because there's no need to have that much money rolling over every year. That just, to me, that's just kind of crazy. I think you need to do a better job of watching that and give that excess money, as much of it as you can, back to the people, and the taxpayers. But, it just kept going, and when you get to $7 or $8 million, that's just kind of hard for me to understand how you can get that much and continue doing that. That's, again, to me, that's overtaxation. But, and I don't really have a problem, I guess, for, $2.5 million maybe in a rollover, for an emergency or something like that. But you don't, well, I think a CFO would have explained this a lot better. Maybe showed that chart to the commissioners. prior to budget time and said, guys, this is where we're at. This is, because that chart right there, to me, that was something I never had seen before. And I think that says a lot about, how things were going then and certainly how they're going now. But, if you just draw a line between those two shortest poles there, all of that, anything above that looks to me like that's overtaxation. Unless there's a special need, like say an EMS building or a fire station, well, not a fire station because that's a different deal, but anyway, the county EMS, but still, in them two short ones, there's no doubt room to set aside, $500,000 or whatever it is for a period of years. And then when it comes time to build a fire station or whatever the need might be, you've got that in the fund, in the building fund to build it, and you don't have to tax. It's called planning ahead, I think is what it is. But
So let me explain. You may ask a good question, so I'll explain to you. So as you look at this chart, the 2019 mill levy for the county was 47.95, and off of that you built the reserve up to 4.08. Then the rate was 48.04, basically the exact same, and you built the reserve up to start 21 with 5.13 million. Then you went down 4 mills to 43.56. So you started the 22 year to 5.93, and with the lowering the mill rate, you went up to from 5.13 to 5.91. 23, you went 42.83. You actually went down even another fraction of a mil in 23, and was able to go from 6.91 to push them up to 7.68. And then you went up just a little bit from 42.83 to 43.14. And that stayed for 2 years because they didn't do revenue neutral. They had to stay revenue neutral. And then this new budget is 59 mills. So listen at these numbers. Start on your far left. 47.9, 48.0, 47.8, 43.56, 42.83 mil, 43.41 mil, 43.41 mil, and 59. So you can see that the mill stayed pretty steady at 47, 48, 47, and then you lowered it to 43, 42, 43. It's pretty steady. And through all of that, you covered the expenses of everything that had to be done and added to the reserves.
Yeah.
And then there had to be, I think one of the terms I shared with yesterday was called guardrails, that you're supposed to, as a commission, tell your staff, you're going to stay between here and here, and then we want to build the reserve, or at least maintain a reserve, or have a reserve, but never that you're going to dig into it without a specific reason. What was the reason that for the last 3 years budgets, that we decided it was worth it to spend $2.5 million till you're down to nothing in the bank? How do you justify that when the other commissions for 6 years kept the mill levy less? Now let me ask you let me explain something that I found in doing these numbers. We just had a 14 mil increase, right? 14.8?
Correct.
And my math shows if you're ever going to get back to just neutral and you're not going to cut anything, you just decide we're paying everything and we're just going to keep paying everything. The only way to correct it is another 11 mil increase. That's what it would take to get that extra $2.5 million a year to get this back to balance.
Well, I mean, what you've done is you've put yourself in a situation where you have structural deficits, and I think that's a term I used a year ago during the campaign. Stopped using it because not everybody knew what that meant, but it's clear as day here. You've established a structural deficit in your spending pattern, and it just continues and continues. It will continue until you're at zero, which you would be in another year.
So like I say, your choice is either going to be, so I just want you to think what I just said. 11 million plus 11 mills plus 14 mills. What does that equal? 25 mills. What did they originally propose? They knew, I think, that they were so far under.
Well, it is the original, approximately the original mill proposal.
Yeah, and there was going to be no way. There was going to be no way. So I think it got split to maybe try to do that over a couple of years. But I don't see how. I mean, when you look at that, and you think, how do we, so if you're going to be down to $80,000 in the bank, what are you willing to consider moving forward to try to correct that?
Well,
is it going to be just more taxes?
I have no idea what they think. The only thing you can do is reduce the spending, and it has to be reduced significantly, very significantly, starting next year.
And I've compared.
In fact, what you should be doing is looking at, so we're 6 months from the end of this year. You shouldn't just be riding this out at your, spend my maximum authority. Absolutely not. That's not what you do.
Now, you guys agree that you're going to come together. Is it January, or has it been changed? At the last public meeting, you talked about that at January or something, you guys are going to come together and review and see.
I'd rather not comment on that. I mean, January, February, I don't see anything happening, and I don't see anything being done at the level it must be done.
One thing Steve threw out was, he talks about 2 million. Well, if you look at this chart, the only way you're going to correct this is it's about 2.5 million. Of somehow you've got to bring that in line, because you've been 2.5 million, 2.5 million, 2.5 million of.
If you want to maintain anything resembling the margin you should have in reserves, 2.5 million in spending reductions. I'm not going to use the word cut because everything's an increase. Spending reductions, that won't do it. You have to be substantially higher than that.
That just gets you that just gets you flat.
And are our flat numbers valid? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your numbers, and according to that,
because as we both know, there are things in the projections that are mythical, in my opinion, but on both sides, income and expenditure.
Right, and so we'll continue to watch it. But when you look at this chart, and again, I didn't produce these numbers. This is their chart.
No, those are county numbers, just put into a graphic form so everyone can look at them.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see that 6 years in a row, adding, and we also don't. I know there's a lot of attention right now on the county, but we look at the city, we look at the school, we look at the college, and we compared their mill rates and their.
You certainly don't see that pattern.
No, you don't.
Nothing remotely.
It's more flat. I mean and that's kind of what, as a taxpayer,
what you would expect to see.
Yeah, just neutrality. You brought in what you needed, and you spent that. Now, you got to realize the one animal that's different, and hopefully we'll talk to Brad in a little bit, but they have a different way of doing it at the school, because they do have this capital outlay, and that's a totally different animal. No one else has that like they have that. And so that's a different deal. But we also had a bond issue to pay for what we needed, on that. There's nothing like that comparable at the city or the county. The college could do it in a way. And even they're a little bit more regulated on what they can do, because their funding is a three-legged stool. They have state, local, and tuition. There's no real tuition dollars. I don't think Brad would want to try to make the school district work on what the student fees are. That'd be tough. So the college has a three-legged stool that's different. So putting those two animals aside.
They also have donors.
That's a different, for that third leg.
Yep.
They have that. And also for buildings. I mean, look at some of the buildings that have gone up. Those weren't on the tax rolls.
No.
Joanne served for a long time on the college board, and her family. put the Champion Center. You've got the Colvin, medical learning facility. Those are great donors to help provide the facilities that were needed. So thank you to the Colvins and the Sharps. I mean, that's what colleges have. I think there's donors also that have helped out with the school district as well. They've done some things over the years, haven't they? There's been some donations made. But I don't see people donating to the county or the city like that. I mean, they may donate for something happening in the playground or a park, something like that. But
Or a cemetery kiosk.
Or a cemetery kiosk. Is that done? Is that running yet?
I think it is.
That's up at the.
Just waiting to see what it costs.
Yeah. Is that called Restlawn?
Yes.
The one out in the
Restlawn
country?
Cemetery,
Okay. Yeah. So, I give the last word on, that chart. I mean, this is just the numbers as they are.
Well, there's no last word. It's a stay tuned.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this is in the future, and the future can still be rewritten. And looking at that, we better be doing some rewriting.
Yep. Well, it will tell. It does show you this is where you're going. I mean, the thing about it is, this time of year, I've already watched. Okay, so I'm a holiday guy, so I get started early. But I've already watched the Muppet Christmas Carol. But
It's not even Thanksgiving.
But Scrooge saw his future. He saw his future and he said, "Can I change this?" Well, that's up to you guys. You can still do something, but if you don't, there it is. There's what you're looking at. And so I hope you guys can come together and maybe revisit that and see what you can do. Plus, we still have a couple of complaints with Boda. We're going to be having another status visit with them coming up, and we'll see where we move from there. So we'll keep it in line. We're going to talk school board. Want to hang around and visit with us after we visit school? Well, we're going to have school board president Brad Carr. They had a meeting last night, and he's going to give us the inside scoop on all of that. We're going to talk to Brad right after this.
Our loved ones leave an impression on us, and it's important to make sure their lasting impression honors the life they led. Since 1956, the Jones family has been providing lasting legacies to the lives of our loved ones, and that torch has now been passed to the Creekmore family. The commitment to compassion continues by offering the largest inventory in stock in the region with in-house custom craftsmanship that makes sure each piece is as unique as the life it represents. With a combined 82 years of experience and professional designers on staff, Jones Monument continues to provide affordable pricing and convenient turnaround times. They are ready to serve you from 9:30 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9:30 to noon on Saturday. Yes, our loved ones may have passed, but the memorial left behind stands as a testament to our never-ending love. The staff at Jones Monument understands that, and that's why providing monuments is more than a sideline at Jones Monument. That's all they do. Visit Jones Monument when you're ready to make an impression beyond a lifetime.
Fall off the bone ribs dripping with our signature barbecue sauce. Tender pulled pork and brisket smoked to perfection. All served with family recipe home-style sides. It's all waiting for you at the Brick House Barbecue and Brew. Open 7 days a week, your barbecue appetite can be satisfied anytime for lunch or dinner. Brick House serves full dinners, combos, sandwiches, and take-home packs. Enjoy a variety of brews on tap or a mixed drink. Shaken, not stirred. Give your taste buds a treat at Brick House Barbecue and Brew, 24 East 2nd Street in Liberal. Like us on Facebook and see our full menu at brickhouselk.com.
We have Brad Carr, the president of the USD 480 School Board, with us, decked out in his red and black today.
Yes.
Sporting the colors.
Yes. We got Veterans Day off at work, so I'm a little more
Oh,
casual
hey,
today, so
there you go.
we got the federal holiday.
Yeah, so a reminder, no banks today. I don't think mail either. So you won't get any mail, you won't have the banks. But But the school's in session.
Yep. Kids are there, teachers are there, so.
Yep. So learning goes on. You know, I always thought, I had a friend who always said, like, what they ought to do on Martin Luther King Day is talk about Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
What they ought to do on Veterans Day,
Talk about vets.
yeah. I mean, what a perfect opportunity to, you know, make that, understand why this day's important and what we do about it and why their contributions made a difference. And
Yeah.
I always thought that would be a fun thing
Right.
to do. Well, last night, school board meeting, we're kind of, you know, into the mix of things, getting here just a little past half of the first semester, right?
Yeah, that's what I tell my girls the other day. You got 3 or 4 more weeks. Just keep pushing. So that would be our first year where we have the full week of Thanksgiving off. So that Monday through Friday, that'll be coming up a couple weeks. So it'll be counting down really quick. So kids, make sure you get those grades up and be there in class. Don't be skipping. So
They don't do that,
stay
do they?
healthy.
No, we're not saying that ever happens.
You end up in truancy court if you do that too many times.
Yeah, got that tomorrow. So
Uh-oh. Well, what were some of the things? What were, are you clicked all the way on?
maybe not.
Let me double check you.
There we go.
There we go. So what were some of the things you guys went over?
So we had our good things. Metal Art came to share last night. It was a new curriculum we had approved for one of the wheel classes, kind of some hands-on learning, and they talked about a little deal about matter, and they showed us this glue, or this, not goo. You take glue and take contact solution, you mix that up and some shaving cream, you make, what's the stuff the kids play with, that nasty goop, yeah.
Slime.
Slime, there we go, that's the word I was looking for. So they came in, presented that, and each of us got to mix up our own little slime. They had one piece that was missing, a thermogenic powder, so if it was hot, it would turn black. If it was cold, it would turn blue, so.
I remember when I was a kid, it came at the store, it was like a little trash can, little plastic trash can, and you would have your slime.
Yeah.
And that's what you would
Just
keep
play
it in.
with it.
Yeah, you just squeeze it and play with it.
Well, now
Get it
they-
dirty and nasty. And
Now
then
they can make their own. It's quite
Yeah.
the deal. That's why I said, man, my kids, I see that glue come out, I'm like, oh, what are we making today?
Here we go.
Put glitter in it, put color in it. But it was good to see one of the curriculums that it was a free curriculum that we put into place that they were using to help teach the kids. So hands-on, they got to come in and show it to us and see how it worked. We had our first streaming last night, so Rusty worked his tail off yesterday trying to get it just perfect. And I think there was a camera issue that he got to a backup to help finish it out or get it going for the night. So we're baby steps into it. We'll get it going, get it perfected. So
And you say that's available at
it
usd480.net?
was on our Facebook page, I know.
Oh,
so
okay.
but again, just bear with us as we work through. And I appreciate Rusty and all the work that he's put into it. I know we approved it last year or end of last year. And I told him there's a lot going on district-wide, and that 6-9 months ago. So gave Rusty a little grace of trying to get that implemented and put in place. So I feel like we got good footing now, and he's ready to tackle it. So it's been good. Good to see that, and the mics that were there for us all set up and ready to go.
So that's been a good project coming along, and that way the people can tune in. I think it was last year, or no, I guess it was the beginning of it was last school year. It was the beginning of this year when Coach Luter stepped down, and there was some interest. And so we came with our one camera and, did the best we could, but there was a lot of interest. And I think that probably was really good because I think it showed this effort of the district to address the concern, and you guys made some adjustments as some things that maybe somehow slipped through the cracks on these interims, something about how they were being reimbursed and things like that or paid. And but you guys, I thought, came up with a good solution, and the public seemed to be happy with it.
Yeah. And I don't want to rehash that, but I think, again, just some miscommunication of everybody's got to know what's going on and promises made that what we have. And that's one as a board. You might have an unintended consequence of when an interim was making just what a certified teacher was that went to school and got their certificate. The previous board said, nah, that's not quite fair. So we're going to offset that. And, well, it affected some coaches, and it didn't play out so well, but that's behind us. We're moving forward, and I think Mrs. Kappelman's kind of spelled that out and is kind of taking charge of, hey, this is where you're at as an interim. If you're in a program to go get certified, steps and what you need to do. So it's, again, the communication. Everybody should know what's going on and what is expected of you. And the promises that we make are kept.
And I love Coach Luters. I know you love Coach Luters. He's doing a great job. No one wanted to see a change there. But I got to say, land on your feet, because Coach Powers is doing a great job.
Yeah.
Carried the torch forward.
Yeah.
Would have liked to have seen one last, if we could have had one last offensive possession the other night, I think it would have been different.
Yeah.
But, you know, the beat goes on there. I feel really good about where we're at and
We're in
where
good
we're
hands.
Yeah, where things are moving. I didn't get to your facility on the weekend. Did you get to go see any of the? There was a younger football tournament this last weekend at Liberal High
Jesus
School.
was there. Jesus, another board member at Baeza, he was there running that. So he got to see all the facilities and see everything in and out on it, and came back with some ideas. And maybe we're not so bad in this. Maybe here we need a little touch up, but no, I was actually in Great Bend. We were watching middle school basketball. So
Oh yeah,
we had the Great Bend Hayes game.
You guys split, didn't you?
Yeah, yep, they did. Hayes is pretty good. They got some pretty good talent there. We were up first quarter and 12-9, 12-6, and then second half got away. We got a little cold, couldn't make a bucket. So, but it's good. They're doing some good work. Coach is there with them, and
Do you do traveling?
I do. I mean, I've had my oldest, my 8th grader now, and I got a 3rd grader started up. That Kelly Hill's been helping that group, so I'm kind of ready to just let him take it and let him run. I'll be there to help. So,
Well, I only bring it up because it used to be summer would get you ahead. Now, if you don't do summer, you're falling behind.
Yeah.
You're not going to be ready to compete.
you can see like in the Dodge Middle School and we played Garden City KH last night, and they're just not very skilled. So, I mean, you got to have a ball in your hand, you got to be dribbling. And if it's not your sport, that's one thing. I mean, a lot of kids, soccer and basketball translate. I see a lot of good soccer and basketball players that do both. Obviously, the conditioning, it's up and down, up and down.
Well, I remember back when Micaiah and that group was coming through, and excuse me, her little brother played like Cal Ripken, but you'd see her coming up the sidewalk dribbling a ball.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have if you don't have a ball in your hand all the time,
Right.
you're not going to be. You can want it all you want, and I hate to say this to parents because I know every parent thinks that their kid wants it really bad, but if you want it really bad, you'll see it in June, July, and August. When they could be doing something else, but they're on a basketball floor, or they're finding a buddy to throw a football with, whatever it may be.
Right.
That's when you find out if you really, really want it. You put the video game down,
Right.
and you go outside and you find a hoop somewhere.
Yeah.
Those are the kids that I say really, really want it. But it's we do have good facilities. Is there something you were looking at the? I know our bathrooms are really old at the stadium, and the concession, the locker room. I think that's original '60s material.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys are looking at?
It's been talked about. I mean, right now, pool's at the forefront. So, out there, I mean, we spent some good money out there already. We spent $500,000 in lights. We spent,
I love those lights.
yeah, the lights are good. I was a one no vote on replacing what we.
Thanks a lot, Brad.
we had lights that worked, and so I don't know. I didn't see, but
You wanted to play in the dark?
no, we had
Or the
lights. There
dim.
was lights there, so that was my thought. We had lights that worked. So
I just, as a photographer, I really like these
well, and
lights.
they're instant. I mean, they're LED. They come on right away.
You can have fun with them. They have the color,
Colors, yeah.
and so scores. It looks
Yeah.
like we're at Alabama, the Crimson Tide. and,
I might have been a little old school, and then.
and did that include the lights? Because I know you put lights over at the secondary field too. So
Right.
did that expense include that as well?
That was $250 there, and there was $250 at the main field.
Okay,
So.
so it was for both of those. And so you mentioned the pool. Are conversations still ongoing?
Yeah, they're still going. I think obviously everybody looks at it's 480. It's in our court of how there's a couple different ways we could skin the cat. I mean, a bond, or if we put a chunk into it and do a lease on it. So who knows? We got to get together as facilities and as a group of 7 at some point. What direction do we want to go? What price tag is it going to be? That might set if it's a bond or a lease option deal. So that's, yeah, it's in our court. We're still talking to the other 2. I know Dane's in constant contact with President Bennett and Ms. Disker at the city. So I think the conversations we've had in the past have been good. It's all been productive of what can each of us bring to the table to make it work, and then putting the action plan in place and getting it going. So
I think more and more those lease option things are, becoming a little more popular. Maybe I remember years ago that's how we built the activity center, was off of a lease. But from time to time, fire trucks, that kind of thing. That lease, because it's just an annual payment, or maybe a semi-annual payment. But sometimes it just kind of depends on the situation, whether a bond is better or a lease is.
yeah,
Well, when you look at the football field upgrades, when we went from wooden stands to metal, because we had a couple of breakthroughs on the visitor side.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of insurance claim is that going to be? Someone falls through the stands, but we went metal, and then we went from a grass field to the turf at the same time. The track only had 6 lanes. We couldn't even host an event because you have to have at least 7 or 8 lanes. And so we were able to make all that, and that was lease.
Yeah.
That came as a lease purchase. So there are options out there. I know the city, we had the city on earlier this week with Jeff, and he's, they're looking at some issues with,
in Venture Bay.
yeah. And they're talking about $1.7 million possibly.
Right.
I mean, as a once in sales tax guy and as a taxpayer, I'm like, why would we want to put that in there if we know we need regulation facility somewhere in town?
Yeah. And I don't think any of our talks have been like an amusement park style of water park, but ours is a competition style, a deal for the aerobics classes and rehab. And I'm thinking 3 different pools, and again, I'm just one, so who knows what a design will come down. One of those little square pools that you can run in it and train.
Oh, yeah.
When an ACL or a knee or whatever have you. Take that wear and tear off of pounding it on the pavement or a treadmill.
Therapeutic pool.
Yeah. And then you look at the aerobics, they're only in a shallow piece of the water. So, I mean, if there's another pool for that, and then an Olympic style, but I don't know. Again, we're very early. Design concepts, what that's going to look like, what we want in it, what's it going to cost us. So we got to start putting our pencils to the paper and see what we have and what we want to do.
Yeah, I was talking to Jeff, and I said, well, hey, if they put that pool in, what would it take to just move those slides? You already own the slides. Just move those slides and put them on the edges, and there you go. And then you still, if they were to still keep all the shallow stuff, splash pads, stuff like that over at
Right.
Venture Bay, you have that, and anybody can go over and do that.
Yeah.
No.
Biggest thing for us, we got the swim teams. We got to have
Yeah.
something that's regulation side,
Yeah.
and we can host. When these schools have to come here, they're all stopping at Brahms, Jim's favorite spot.
There you go.
Spending some money there to at least eat and maybe fuel the bus up, but getting them here, we can't host one of those. So
Well, the other thing that saves you is you didn't have to drive a bus.
Right,
And
yeah.
you didn't have to go eat
Yeah.
at somebody else's Brahms.
Yeah.
So, that's about a 50-50 deal. You look at a lot of sports, and Heather was telling me, we only have like 6 home basketball games. I was like, that can't be right. Because 4 of them are whack. You have to have those.
Yeah.
We only have 2 other home basketball games. So I said, I'm going to look at that schedule just to make sure. But if you have half of them at home, half of them on the road, but right now we have 100% on the road.
Yeah.
So we're spending money to bus everywhere,
Right.
do all of it on that, and practicing in a pool that isn't even regulation, And I'm not knocking them. At least they have something. I
Yeah,
appreciate that
they-
the college is doing it.
yeah, they got somewhere to go, and it's unfortunately I think they lost their boilers. So I don't know if it's might be a little frigid in there, but we were doing our first superintendent search when I came on, and they were having those pool meetings. I thought, oh, great, we got a lot of people coming to show up to meet our superintendent. They were all going to the pool meeting, so I understand the community wants and what it means to the community to have that pool. It'd be another great asset for us as a community. The rec, I mean, I don't know if the rec could put on some competition swim. You know, I know they do like that triathlon that they end up at the city pool at the Adventure Bay. So I don't know, it'd be something good for us to have here. And I originally was one of those that just let the program die, our swim team. But we wouldn't do it for any other program. I mean, if we're going to start programs, we need to be invested and try to do what we can to make sure these things
Well, another thing,
stay.
just if you just think about community-wide, look, I'm not a golfer, but am I against that we have a public golf course? It doesn't cover its costs. No way it covers its costs.
No.
But if I want a doctor who wants to go golf, if I want a lawyer to help me at some point and they like to go golf, I got to have a community that has the amenities. Some of these are just fundamental basic amenities. A public access pool is a public, is just, I mean, we're not talking like you have to get to communities of 100,000. I mean, Kismet has a pool. I mean, they're just some public, you know, amenities that a community has some expectations of, and a pool is just one of them. And not everyone is going to use it, but not everyone uses the swing set either. Yeah. But you have to have them,
Right.
and there are just certain fundamental things that you measure a community. And if we were on a list that said they don't even have a public pool, that would be absolutely, you know, I mean, it's just one of those things. But I see this as a great opportunity where 3 entities can come together and make this happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been good. I mean, from the start, you know, of course, when President Ben said, hey, we're shutting it down, he got a little bit of flack from it. He goes, man, some of those phone calls were not so good. The other surrounding communities that want to come in and use it, be good to get them in here. Again, spend that sales tax dollar here, maybe get a meal or two. And I don't know if the hospital will have some kind of use for it, you know, physical therapy side, something to have just that extra piece of amenity in our community.
Well, that, you know, that meeting that they held a year or so ago, you know, when they were talking about closing that down, Earl and I went, and I don't know, maybe you were there, I don't remember, but anyway. Okay.
Disappointed.
He was on the other side of the hallway.
But, you know, I mean, I was really amazed at all of the, I guess you could call them needs, or at least wants, you know, by different folks that I never dreamed would use that thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there was, you know, from the young to older than me, some of them, you know, were, you know, and they, you know, they were using it and they wanted to continue the use, you know, and I don't know how many different uses there were, but there was a lot. And so I was kind of impressed, and the, you know, the attitude, yeah, we got to have one. You know, it wasn't, I'm against it and what do we need it for and all that. I don't remember one negative remark about it. You know, it was just something that the community needs because all of these people use it, and I had no idea that many folks used that thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I know we talk about wants and needs, but what I've seen senior citizens 20 or 30 at a time in there doing the aqua, because you go to the doctor and they say you're arthritis, but if you want to ease that up, you need to get into a pool and do this and that. I mean, if you don't have a pool, you know, they say, well, you're just going to have to what? Go try to walk around the park? You know, that hurts
Hop
like
in a
crazy
pond.
for some, you know, yeah. Go, what are you going to do? You know, I mean,
Especially this morning, or yesterday morning.
and to have that available for that.
Cold plunge.
Yeah.
Kids learning to swim, they have scuba. There's scuba. You can learn that in the middle of America, where there's no ocean.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can learn how to scuba dive right here, and that's available.
The
Plus,
birthday parties they've had there, I mean, it's, I use it in high school. The baseball coach took us in there and we trained in it. And that'll wear you out. It's some good training. I know the baseball team there at Seward uses it.
so we had a rule. I don't know if you do traveling baseball, but when I was coaching, we did traveling baseball, and we'd go to places.
No pool.
No pool, because they want to go play in the pool, and they would be worn out game time. So we had a rule out of town. You cannot, when we're there for a baseball tournament, we're not going to the pool. So you can forget that. But no, it's great. if you're training, then get into the pool.
Yeah.
Because there is extra resistance. You are developing up a little bit better muscular structure on that. So it is a great thing for that. But it's just, at some point, it's just a fundamental to have a pool. We don't need 3.
Yeah.
We
That's the
need
thing.
1.
And we've talked about that baseball,
Well-
softball field. We don't want to be duplicating service or duplicating offerings of what we have in the community. So it's always one we've got to be in conversation of what each side's wanting or looking to do. We don't need 2 separate softball fields and one that gets dilapidated and goes down. We don't need 2 baseball fields. We got the same. We used to play at the college one because we didn't have the National B fields.
Well, when I was in high school, you played at Fairgrounds Park.
Yeah.
That's where the high school played. It was in the middle of a racetrack, but everybody played there. The BJs played there.
Yeah.
And then they built up Brent Gold Field, and they did all of that. And then these baseball fields, again, a 1-cent sales tax helped put those baseball fields in. Whether at the Cal Ripken fields were developed after that,
Right.
1-cent sales tax, and look at the use. Go in the summertime and drive by there, and look at how many out-of-town cars coming in for those weekend tournaments.
Yeah, it's good. It's definitely a good sales tax generator for us. Again, sales tax helps pay that original bond we got, so any sales tax in the community is good for 480. Anything we can drive there, and that's one where, like us, is 480, making our facilities available for events like that. I know in the past the basketball league, the basketball tournaments, we're the only ones in town that have a quantity of gyms. College has theirs too that they've offered and we've used, but they just work so well. The high school's got 3 right there you could use, so you're able to host tournaments really well. And I feel like Ruth, I'll give her a shout out too. She's part of keeping all the key cards and making sure everybody gets in where they're going. What a job she has tracking every gym, every time slot, every group that's using them. What school has an activity that day and lets us know, hey, you can't practice today. We got a program tonight. I wouldn't want her job. The phone calls and the texts. I've been out there, Ruth, I can't get in. Boom, she can get me in and get me fixed up.
Yeah, well, when I was on the committee to build those new schools, the one thing we talked about was a selling point was they would be available for Kids Inc. and these traveling programs and other things because, it's the district's kids. I mean, these are activities, and
Right.
if we just get in the facility, we'll have the coaches, we'll have the oversight of the facility and stuff like that. We just need to get in the door,
Yeah.
and that the district committed that, if we build these new schools, we'll build and design them in a way where that part could be lopped off.
There's doors on those very end of the gym. That's all you need. That one door. There's a bathroom right there
Yeah.
close by. They don't have to be wandering through the building. And I've been called out with Kids Inc. before. Like, hey, you've got kids going all the way down. Like, okay, cut it out, or we're gonna lose the privilege, or school just shut these doors off. They don't need
Yeah.
to be outside
Yeah.
of that gym.
Yeah, that's the way we designed them was they would have bathroom access,
Yeah.
a water fountain, but you're not going into hallways. It was designed in a way that we could do those kind of things and shut that off. I love the middle school design. I mean, it could almost be its own field house.
Yeah.
You walk in those doors right in front of the gyms, and then there's right there. You shut that one door, and you don't have access to anything else in that building.
Yeah.
You're just right into that gym, can do whatever you need to do in there, and right back out. No damage, no problems with anything else in the building. So I really like that.
Yeah, there's just one thing I wish we had 2. We go to play, and when we host teams here, our 8th grade will play at our Eisenhower or Seymour, and then the 7th grade has to go to Cottonwood or Prairie View. The Prairie View ones are okay. I mean, it's a little tight when you put bleachers for spectators to watch. It would have been nice to have 2. Everywhere we go, they've got 2. Great Bend, Hayes, Dodge, Garden. Like, man. But yes, the facilities we got now. The gym we were playing at Great Bend the other day, it was tight. It was like their auxiliary gym. Like, our facilities aren't so bad here compared to this little. The lines, I think we were actually inbounding past the out of bounds line on the sideline, but it worked.
And I've got to give Nick credit, so don't tell him. But when we were looking at those elementary ones, they were going to have either that rubber floor or tile. And he said,
Wood.
we're going to put in the wood floors, and regulation size and everything, and they're good floors.
I like it. I mean, they got 6 goals. So if you got a Kids Inc. or a traveling group, you can put 6 goals down, work 2 kids at a goal. Like, it's very conducive to practice.
Yeah.
The wood, you get the wood feel. There's a gym in Perryton that it's awful. It's got like plastic mats or something. Crack every time you dribble it. It's a different dribble, but yeah, our facilities are great. I really enjoy what we do have. And as far as forward projects looking forward, we'll just see, if a bond were to come back into play and what we do. We've already kind of got a template of some stuff at the auditorium, maybe adding on to the drama theater side, getting them a bigger classroom, but I don't know.
Yeah, the performing arts area is really limited.
Yeah.
We have one classroom and then the stage. And that's pretty much it. I mean, so yeah.
Stuff for their backdrops and their prop. I mean, they just don't have enough room really.
Yeah.
They could use. And I asked Chad, I was worried with that rain screen on the front, and I'm not sure what the architect draw is, but I asked him, I said, are we gonna have to rip that thing off? Or he goes, no, it was built into that if we did this room, that stays put and we can just add on or get that extra room. So I don't know. There's some exciting stuff there to talk about and think about that what we got going forward.
Well,
Again, pool's at the forefront. So
I was going to ask you, just had an election, and
Yeah.
You've got one newcomer.
right.
Lou, did you have Mrs. Riggs?
I did. She was my 7th or 8th grade Spanish, or maybe both, Spanish teacher. And then her husband was my 3rd grade. I didn't have him for my main class, but we would swap like science and social studies. So I had him at 3rd grade at McKinley. Great people, been here a long time, 40, 41 years they've served. They both retired. So Mrs. Riggs has a heart for liberal, has a heart for 480, our kids, our staff. Very energetic. I think we're all excited to get her on. I told Alan last night, I'm thankful for him, the expertise he's bestowed upon us, us younger members maybe. I don't feel that young, but the experience he's had and to give us, and then he's got great input, great ideas and great stuff, especially to leave us looking forward. So
Yeah, serving on that board would probably get your grades to come out a little sooner.
like some of these are my kids. I don't know if I can count 480 ones yet. But.
Yeah, well, and the night of the election, and Jim was here, and we're just kind of looking into crystal ball. But the one thing I said was, Alan Brown has won a lot of elections.
He has.
He's served a long, long time, and I know he had some health challenges earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some voters would have taken that into account. But people recover from those kind of things. But when I look back at the district, I can't think of anything that didn't have Alan Brown's, fingerprint on it. I mean, a lot of the things that have been done, he's had a hand in helping make happen.
Yeah.
And so I just want to, say thank you to him for his years of service, and maybe just enjoy life a little bit. He's got a lot of family and grandkids and all of that, and he's given back his fair share.
He's done a lot for 480, for our community. And it's a volunteer job, volunteer gig. So
That you don't cash that check?
yeah, right.
Yeah. Just so people know, they don't get one.
We do not get paid.
It's a totally volunteer thing, and but Luz Riggs, I gotta say, she campaigned like you don't see very many. I mean, she was out at every public event. I saw her at the fair. I saw her at every festival.
She had the United Way trick or treat deal.
Yeah.
And that's, as a new one, you get excited and you want.
Are you saying that wears off?
No, I mean, you just get it. It's just kind of like your job. You get into the grind of it, and it's but campaigning is a whole different side of it. I haven't had to run for a re-election yet, but yeah, that first one, you want to be visible. You want everybody to see you. You're gonna be a huge contributor to the team.
Then before long, you're looking for a place to hide.
It hasn't been too bad. There's, we had some rocky months in there, but.
So as when you're a school board member and they had the forum, how are you? You used to watch them maybe as a community member. How does that change when you're a board
Start
member?
making little mental notes, which for the most part, everybody had quite a bit of the same ideas in those. I mean, you don't get there were some varying ones, but it's definitely a lot more relaxed when you're on that side. As part of the committee on that, it's just better to sit back and take it in and see what everybody's ideas are, see if they align, or maybe some things you might have to bring them up to speed on. That, hey, we have pieces of that, we have pieces of that, what you're thinking. And that's one, as a candidate, you don't always know. You don't know what we have in place to recruit or to retain or.
So how do you feel? Let's put you back when you were campaigning and on that panel. What do you feel like now you know that you would have liked to have known back then? Anything different?
I mean, you want to change the world. You want to go in there, and we're there to hire a fire superintendent. We're a team of 8, like we always put it, and Dane puts it. We're a team of 8. So if we can be giving him input of what, as a district whole, I can't be in there and say we need to put more salt and pepper out at the lunch. I mean, there's things.
I would appreciate
people
that.
are in place and procedures and policies that we don't need to get in the middle of it. If we hear something or pass that along, did you check with this? Did you check with this person? And so, yeah, a little bit of that, just temper down some of that. You want to go set the world on fire. You got all the answers, and it's, hey, or I mean, learning what some people were doing that, maybe people I disagreed with, how much work they were doing and how much maybe got dumped on them, and how much we need to reposition some stuff. We had a federal programs director spot open, we just couldn't fill it. And then lo and behold, we had somebody interested and ready to take it. Please take it. We need a good person, and that's some of last night, Dane setting our board goals out. Federal programs, we gotta get that in line, and when you dump so much onto one person, they can't do anything really great. I mean, you're just doing it to get by, I feel, or just getting it done.
Right, putting out fire day to day.
Yeah.
And you got to have that 10,000 foot view. Look at that. And so speaking of that, you talk about changing the world. Mississippi's called the Mississippi Miracle. I'm sure you looked at that. Indiana has embraced some of that, and they held back 3,000 third graders because they weren't at reading level.
Yeah.
But now they're seeing how that is affecting the education process for those kids moving forward, and it's really made a significant impact on that. You think Kansas looking at that? Do you guys look at that at the local level?
I can't say. I mean, that's one that it gets too deep into the weeds of a curriculum committee. They might discuss that some, but I haven't heard any discussion on that statewide. Now, we're going to go to Wichita this weekend as a group, and maybe there's a session on some of that. We can find that'd be a Dr. Watson or Mr. Watson at the state level. What are we looking at statewide? But I hadn't heard any talks about that or anything at state level to push down to us. And it's another one of our goals of we've got to be on the right trend, getting back to proficiency in our reading, math levels.
So social promotion, is that something that's done at the local level, the state level? Who decides? Like, it doesn't matter whether you flunk first, second, or third grade, you move on to fourth, fifth, sixth anyway.
Some of that I'm not going to be speaking at her. I mean, it's going to come from state, I'm assuming, and then we got to follow what state sets for us.
Because, I mean, these other states that are going back to holding a kid back is actually improving their academic performance, but and also those around them, because the teacher then at the next level isn't having to slow down to deal with the kid who shouldn't have been there. That kid was held back. They're getting what they need. The rest of the kids are moving forward with their grade. Now this kid comes in with this group and they're able to move through.
Yeah.
And so, because one of the things I hear it at middle school, I hear it at the high school, is they're being held accountable, but they never have a chance to teach them what they need to because they're having to teach what should have been taught previous. Do you hear that?
Yeah, and Jesus and I had a conversation the other night. Like, he came in, didn't know English, and he goes, he was in Ulysses. He goes, man, they took all of us. It didn't matter what age you were. You all came in as an ESL 18-year-old to 10-year-old, and they got us to a level where we could speak English, understand English, and then got us into the. So I don't know if that's something we need to look at or if it's even allowed. Right now they just kind of put you in. What do they call it? Submersive. You're just going to get in there and you're going to learn. I don't know. I don't know if that's conducive to what they, at truancy court, we had a young man that, he just didn't speak much English. It's, how could you go learn any math or science if you can't understand? your
Yeah.
professor.
Well, I would say
teacher.
this: if you're going to be thrown into something, everyone ought to learn every time that they can how to say bathroom, because that might be alert. If you're getting thrown into somewhere, you better know how to get to that. So baño, you might want to know baño. You might want to know the loo. You might want to know WC in French. I didn't learn a lot in French, but I know how to find or ask for the bathroom. They can point me in the right direction. I'm not. I think there are some situations where immersion is good, but I think we ought to be looking at how some of these other states, Kansas as a state, ought to be looking at Mississippi and Indiana, because Mississippi went from, one of the bottom 3 in the country to now one of the top 5.
Which, if you think about it, you go through it a second time, you should be able to gain that much more knowledge
At that early level.
Yeah.
It's not repeating 7th or 8th or 9th grade. It's get it now,
Yeah.
and now you can, because you have that
So
that
most learning you're
foundation.
gonna do is that K through 3, K
Yeah.
to 2.
Yeah.
Well, common sense should tell you that, but I think common sense
Not too common
is
anymore.
not too common anymore, and hopefully, or maybe, the days of everybody gets a trophy is over, and you actually have to earn the trophy.
Well, thinking that the social ramifications are worse than the academic ones, I don't believe that. I remember going to school with some people who were held back, and they were
It's actually
friends.
part of the group. Maturity-wise, sometimes it's where they should be.
Right, but especially academically, though. If you can't do the math, and now you're going to have to try to if you can't add, and now you're going to multiply,
Yeah.
it's so simple things like that. So yeah, I'm all for at least finding out what's going on, how this is working in Indiana and Mississippi, and we need to look at that statewide, because it's not just liberal. It's not just.
No.
We have a migrant challenge for sure, but it's happening across the state.
That's why I think like Garden and Dodge, we got to maybe collaborate more together. Or, like, what are you guys doing versus us? And they're not perfect by any means either. I think Dodge might be leading the way a little bit more than what us and Garden are academically. But what can we borrow or bum off of you? We're all trying to educate Kansas kids, so
Yeah.
as a group.
And there's no shame in saying, hey,
We
how
need
did you
help.
do that?
Yeah.
And let's do this. Why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
Someone's figured it out, and it's got measurable, attainable data, then it's it. Well, I've asked you a lot of things. What else did I not get you a chance to let you get in here what you want to get in?
Let's see, we had director of operations. So we've had a couple of times where some of our freezers have gone down, and National Beef has helped out National Carriers with a trailer to help us keep our product cool. So we looked at, Chad brought to us that he's looking at a portable one that we can have at 480. And we can move it school to school. Again, I taught a superintendent report, and Dane, again, lined out our goals for us, and as a district, our federal programs, kind of being the first one out of the gate, making sure that funds are being used efficiently and that we're 100% compliant with our federal guideline. Again, that's our revenue stream for us that we need to make sure we're optimizing that as much as possible and not losing any dollars. Our student achievement and the steps that we're going to do, we want our accountability scores to increase, 3.5%, areas of ELA, math, science. Our chronic absenteeism, we've got to keep that. There was a good question, it's been months ago, but where are our levels at? And it was grade school up to middle school was 17 to 19%. Freshmen, sophomore started to tick up, but then the junior class just blew up. I don't know why or how, but theirs was like 60%. So what are we doing there? But we got to have it on our radar. We got to be watching it. Another one was our safety, security, mental health, making sure our kids are healthy, our buildings are safe. Dane comes from Texas, and Mr. Beller comes from Texas. He says we go over the top in Texas, but he's got some ideas for us here. Door checks, making sure doors latch, making sure they're shut, making sure people that are getting in need to be in the buildings. And then his last one was district office alignment. I know he's talked a lot. He's wanting to get out in buildings, and I've seen him out there. I saw him at Eisenhower just last week, meeting with principals, and but he's got a team there. He's got to build up and get them, I'd say, under his wing and see his vision, what he has for us, and as a board. And one of those was our accounting software. He goes, well, a lot of it. I said, we need a report here quarterly, month. I don't know what it needs to be, but he goes, man, I didn't realize it takes forever. You got to type in code more or less to try and get the report back. So stuff like that. He's really got a lot of work to do there at DO and to get that on board and going. So that was a good report from Dane last night. Mr. Fisher from Cottonwood came. He's our PE director, kind of heads up kind of PE district-wide. But we had an anonymous donation for some bikes. I was thinking a bicycle, a full-blown bike. But these bikes have no training wheels, and it teaches them how to balance it without the wheel. He goes, when they get a training wheel, they're dependent on it, and then they just ride it to the ground. These start off with a balance, and then they kind of progress them into another stage, and then they put pedals on them. So at the kindergarten level, we've got these bikes that have been donated. The funds have been donated to get these, and these PE teachers to help kids start to learn to ride in their bikes. Our board travel again this weekend will be at Wichita. The KSB puts on an annual deal. Dane and I were talking. He's like, "Well, newbies, Luz is coming." I'm like, "Well, yeah." Jesus, Kaylee, and I, we had our chance to go. We're not on the board yet, but absolutely, we need to get Luz there. So she's going to make that trip with us. It's good onboarding for a new school board member. That first day, kind of the do's and don'ts and what's expected of a board member. You're there with all other districts of the state. Maybe some networking chances there. And then there's breakout sessions that I've looked at. There'll be some really good ones. Finance, the cell phones, what other districts are doing with those, what kind of policies do you have? So we're looking at excited for that, kind of get us there as a team and some good bonding time as well as a group. Paid our bills, that was good, get them taken care of. Then we had one, Mrs. Forney came from the high school and she had an update to the LHS handbook. I had it pulled up on my phone, but she's been really frustrated with our absentee, our tardiness at the high school. It's driving her crazy, I think. So she's looked at some different things with schedule, like first hour, your first mod cannot be a PLT. But she came to us about some accountability. And this will be just for their first mod. So a mod's 20 minutes. That first 20-minute mod, if you got 1 to 3 tardies, you're going to go to it's a club, like Smart Choices Club. What are you doing? How can you be better at being a student? If you go past that, 3 to 6, I think it's a detention. Over that, you're going to send a 2-hour, and put some teeth into it to hold these kids accountable to show up, to be on time, and to be ready to be a student at the school that day. She equates it to it's a job. You don't show up to your job late. It's not allowed. You're not going to get by with that. So she's looking at some different things there, trying to get some kids there on time. She understands there's kids dropping their family off, dropping their brother or sister off possibly. So she knows that, but she wants them there on time and ready to go. And a little pep in the step, like zombies with their phones in front of their face. So really excited, and we approved that update to the handbook to let her do that. And then other than that, got rid of we had some property on Pine Street that I think originally was supposed to be swapped, just kind of fell through the cracks, and we got that taken care of. So the city can I think they're going to do their dog park and maybe a couple of duplexes over there, be on the west side of the rec center, the new rec center. So, and then our EMS boys, they had their wrestling has blown up. They got 55 kids at Boys Out, I think, and they had 2 coaches, and so we were desperately in need of a third coach to help coach them and manage all those boys. So we got that approved. And other than that, that was pretty much it for the meeting. Like I said, the streaming, we'll continue to work at it and get better at it. I think Rusty's the man. He does a really good job with our IT, keeping our district running on that side. And I appreciate him. I give him a big shout out. I know he was probably ready to kill me yesterday. He was trying to get it set up. So
Yeah, your guys' Wi-Fi scared the heck out of me a while back because my phone just switched to your Wi-Fi, and I was going to put something up on social media, and my whole page was blank. I was like, "What? What happened?" And it was because you guys have it locked down. I mean, you can't do certain things, and I was like, someone's hacked my page. Someone's taking all this stuff off. I don't know what happened, and I can't load anything. And then I saw the little wave, the little lines. Like, oh, wait a minute. And I switched back to cellular, and then everything showed back up. But and that's a good protection. You got to have the kids. You don't want them.
Yeah.
You
That was esports when that started. I didn't realize. He goes, "Oh yeah, you got to make sure those things are only doing esports and the sports that they're supposed to be, games they're supposed to be playing on that." So
Yeah.
that's a tough job. I hate IT. I hate it at work. I don't want to be the IT director. I had to talk to my boss, like, yeah, the youngest guy always gets it. They know the most, right? Yeah.
Rush used to tell me, I got one lever on my computer, and that's lever B.
My idea is just try the reset, turn it off, and turn it back on.
Yeah, well, that's what happened to me here. I was the youngest guy, and anytime the power flickered and the computers restarted, they called my name, and I had to come get them back where they were, get them back on the network, get all that, get them connected to printers. But
I hate that at work, trying to unplug that. I'm like, I'll never get it back in the right spot.
Yeah.
It's not going to go.
You ought to be here when he moves all this stuff across the street and back.
moving it's not the problem. Putting it back together, it never goes back the same. It's never gone back the same way twice, ever. Well, Brad, we appreciate you coming in and sharing with us. And maybe next time we can talk about cell phone policies, things like that, as you guys move forward, discussions that you have.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate that. Enjoy Veterans Day.
Yep.
And
thank you, veterans out there.
And we will see you in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Right
we got
before
one more
Thanksgiving.
in November. Yeah. And then we only have one in December. So.
All right. Well, we'll see you then.
All right.
And the Senate last night had a special vote, maybe to get this government open. We're going to talk about that right after this.
Our loved ones leave an impression on us, and it's important to make sure their lasting impression honors the life they led. Since 1956, the Jones family has been providing lasting legacies to the lives of our loved ones, and that torch has now been passed to the Creekmore family. The commitment to compassion continues by offering the largest inventory in stock in the region with in-house custom craftsmanship that makes sure each piece is as unique as the life it represents. With a combined 82 years of experience and professional designers on staff, Jones Monument continues to provide affordable pricing and convenient turnaround times. They are ready to serve you from 9:30 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9:30 to noon on Saturday. Yes, our loved ones may have passed, but the memorial left behind stands as a testament to our never-ending love. The staff at Jones Monument understands that, and that's why providing monuments is more than a sideline at Jones Monument. That's all they do. Visit Jones Monument when you're ready to make an impression beyond a lifetime.
Fall off the bone ribs dripping with our signature barbecue sauce. Tender pulled pork and brisket smoked to perfection. All served with family recipe home-style sides. It's all waiting for you at the Brick House Barbecue and Brew. Open 7 days a week, your barbecue appetite can be satisfied anytime for lunch or dinner. Brick House serves full dinners, combos, sandwiches, and take-home packs. Enjoy a variety of brews on tap or a mixed drink. Shaken, not stirred. Give your taste buds a treat at Brick House Barbecue and Brew, 24 East 2nd Street in Liberal. Like us on Facebook and see our full menu at brickhouselk.com.
So last night, in a kind of a contentious vote, 60-40, the very basic minimum to get over a filibuster. The Senate then held their vote and voted to basically end the 41-day hostage situation of the American government when the Senate Democrats refused to allow a vote And that's what filibustering does. It refuses you to be able to vote. Some people may not understand that the way that the system actually works is that any vote is just a 51 to 49. You just need a majority. But to end debate takes 60. So anyone can debate unlimited in the Senate. The House has limited debate. So everyone can get there a few minutes and run out of time, and then you take a vote. That's not the case in the Senate. It's unlimited debate on issues. So to end debate, which is called cloture, it takes a 60 vote threshold to end cloture, to end debate. And so that is what was holding this thing up. And then on procedural, it was Republican Rand Paul, who I put with the Matt Gaetz crowd, that think that they alone can just run the show. And he held it up a little bit, but finally they were able to take a vote, and now it goes over to the House, and the House is getting called back in by Speaker Johnson, and then they can take a vote, and then the government can reopen. But so far, the reaction has been that the Democrats capitulated here. They didn't get what they wanted. They wanted to basically get $1 trillion in spending on health care, and the Republicans said, we'll talk about that, but not with a gun to our head under this issue. So what's your thoughts on bringing the filibuster here and the shutdown to an end?
Well, I think it's about time. This is the longest one in history, and they're really, it was just a matter of who was going to, do the standoff the longest, and I think Trump was determined that he wasn't going to give in, and finally Schumer figured that out. But I've seen this morning in a Gateway Pundit, and it said, in a stunning admission, Senator Dick Durbin exposes Schumer's shutdown plan. Democrat Senator Dick Durbin exposed the plan during remarks on the Senate floor on Monday. In a stunning admission, Durbin, the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, said that Democrats' shutdown the strategy was to starve children. After 40 days of government shutdown, 8 Senate Democrats caved and joined the Republicans to advance legislation to reopen the government. Durbin was one of the 8 Democrats who joined the Republicans to advance legislation to reopen the government on Sunday evening. But, I wasn't aware that it was the plan to starve children. I thought it was all about funding, health care for illegals is what they kept claiming it was. But, if that's actually what happened and that was their intent, I see no reason to do that. My concern is, and I think all of us, is the fraud that is in that bill, for providing that food to different folks. There's certainly, it deserves an audit if nothing else, but at least we're going to get it open. I know there was some concerns about flights and the number of flights that have been canceled and one thing and another. I know my son's supposed to come home from Arizona, I think Friday, I believe it was, and I was kind of wondering. I talked to him the other day and asked him if he thought he was going to be able to get out of Phoenix, because he goes from Phoenix to Denver and then to Liberal, and I think Liberal's all right, but those other two, those bigger cities, I don't know about that. But anyway, so hopefully they'll begin to get things back on track. But it was just a standoff, as I want my money for my favorite programs and perhaps a little bit more. And but the administration and the Republican Party, believe it or not, had the courage to say no, we're not doing that. And so finally we're not, they wanted a clean CR. I don't know what that is for sure, but anyway, a clean to them isn't necessarily clean to me. But anyway, you know, they finally agreed, and so we'll be seeing folks going back to work hopefully today, and things will beginning to get back to normal. Somebody reminded me the other day the CRP checks, Conservation Reserve Program for farmers here, even in Surrey County, have been held up due to that. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, well, yeah, I haven't got mine yet. So I still got a little interest in a landlord's contract, and so if I hadn't got it, it's no big deal. But anyway, so even those CRP payments were being held up.
So Todd, do you know, was there any funding issues at the county level or anything because of the shutdown?
Nothing that I was made aware of.
So how do you view the vote to get this thing back open?
It was like a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum for,
Yeah.
for 4 or 5 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, you accomplished nothing and got nothing. So it was kind of strange. Maybe they expected a cave. I don't know.
Well, I think they just used the excuse, you know, the scare tactic, because, oh man, people's going to go hungry, and, you know, all of those kind of things. And that's not true.
Well,
I mean,
I appreciated
you know.
Senator Fetterman yesterday talking about, what do you mean there was no plan to ever renew those Obamacare subsidies. The Democrats that designed the program designed them to sunset. There was no plan for them ever to extend beyond this point in time.
Well, and I'm looking at a report here that says only 7% of the country uses Obamacare.
Is it that low?
So that's
Wow.
it. And
And how many hundred billions do we spend on it?
it was, you know, but the thing that gets me is, look, the Democrats passed that, 100% Democrat, 0 Republican.
Yep.
They had the keys of the kingdom, and they got that through. And so my question then is, how can it be broken? They got everything they wanted. It was exactly 100% designed by them. So there was no compromise to get a Republican vote, because they got no Republican votes. They did it 100% the way they wanted. So if it's not working, why? And who do you blame if it's not working the way that they want it to work? They're the ones who implemented it. 100% their plan.
Well, they thought it was the doorway to single payer for the entire country is what they thought. I don't think they ever intended for it to actually function.
and it would probably bring a little extra cash into their campaign.
That
Did you hear?
Oh,
how
did
much
I
money
say
they
that?
got? Did you say that?
and
All this stuff is growing very, very suspicious on where our money is really going. Is that for a program, or is that for your best interest in being reelected?
But here's the thing. So you had a total of 8 Democrats it took to join all Republicans to switch this out. And now those 8 put their necks on the line, and there's about 12 to 14 in that group above the ones that were already doing it. Fetterman and 3 others were already voting with Republicans. So like, this is not good. So they only needed 5 more.
Right.
And they
Well,
had
and
12.
just exactly the number that were needed were allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Well, how many of those are up for election? You know,
Very few
I
of
would
them.
say
You
very
had
few.
some retirees in
So
there,
you know,
too.
if you got a couple of years in there, you'll forget that.
Yeah, but the retribution of their own caucus right now, because if you saw anything on MSNBC or CNN, they're all, this is a disaster. You know, you guys are running it for all of us, and this, and it's like, one of them was Kane from Virginia, who was the vice presidential nominee with Hillary Clinton, and he voted for this because he's like, there's tens of thousands of government employees in Virginia, and they'd like to get paid, and they're telling me, hey, we want paid, and if he wants to keep his seat, he's gonna end this stalemate. So he was kind of pressured by his own constituents who are on the government till that they needed paid.
Well, if anybody shouldn't have been paid, it should have been the members of Congress.
Yeah, but they made
You
sure
know.
they were. But,
Oh, yeah.
But all Republicans refused to be paid during the shutdown. So just remember that. You're not going to hear that on CNN or MSNBC.
And amazingly, they survived. I bet not a one of them missed a party.
But
I
The Democrats cashed their checks.
That was a strange look you had.
I just, do you know the average income of the Congress critters? They didn't miss that at all.
Yeah, it's way more than $176,000. I'll guarantee you.
I saw a report now that Nancy Pelosi has announced she will not seek re-election. Her returns on her investments, like 1,342% is how well she worked the market. You ever heard anybody do that well?
She even outdid the monkeys that the Wall Street Journal used to have throwing darts at a board to pick stocks.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if she had any insight. I wonder if she had any
No.
information that would maybe say this stock, if we vote this way, this stock's going to take off.
You know, a black
She
car
was-
just pulled up out front.
She was working with a financial advisor.
Oh, was she?
And I'm thinking that's probably how she got where she is.
Are they available?
We got any of those around here?
I don't know.
But yeah, I mean that was amazing that she announced that. I thought she would just kind of fossilize in the chair, and they'd still try to just have where they could raise her hand for votes because.
There've been a few of them's done that.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Senator Feinstein.
Yep.
Senator Feinstein was a U.S. senator, one of 100, and yet her daughter had power of attorney over her to make personal decisions for her, and yet she's still in the U.S. She was still in the U.S. Senate. What does that say? What does that say about us as voters?
Must be a California thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we? But how? Why is it so important that we keep sending back that person? It has to be that person.
It's called an uninformed electorate. That's what it's called.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that the heat's really on Chuck Schumer now. Benz, he allowed those 8, and he did. I'm sure he did. Allowed those 8 to go ahead and vote to, open the government again. And so now then they're really putting the heat on him for doing that, because there was some of them that they didn't care if whether people went hungry or they starved kids or anything else. They was out for the long haul, that they were going to get their money for these programs, and they could just outlast Trump. But I guess that didn't work, and but I think it was a way past time to get this thing settled. But the failure was that they wouldn't get together and talk. They never tried to solve the problem. It's just my side against your side, and I want my money, and that's it. And that brought us 40 days of government shutdown, or I don't know. Well, I guess maybe some of them went back to work this morning, but some of them might not go back until they get their paycheck, just to make sure.
Well, they're not back yet. The House has to vote, and it looks like it's going to be tomorrow before they have enough members back, because once they voted,
Too many gone to even hold the vote right now. Yeah.
once they passed their the bill and sent it to the Senate, the first one, then Johnson said, we're recessed until we get, because there's nothing else we can do or vote on until we have the appropriations to do it. And so he sent everybody, he said, you're on recess until the Senate addresses this. Well, yesterday, the Senate finally addressed it. So then he put the all points bulletin out and said, get back to Washington. And now they're all on their way back. And flights aren't exactly easy right now. So, but maybe some people say, okay, now I see I'm going to get paid by the end of the week. They're going back and doing their jobs.
I think Trump said something about they all needed to go back today.
I mean, they don't all get military transport like Nancy?
Well, no, the answer is no, they don't.
No.
They have to fly like everybody, but, or drive. Some of them, a lot of those people are going to be within distance. They can drive if they want to and get down there, but that's where it's going to be. So they have to have that vote. They agreed that everyone will get back pay. No one loses a nickel. Everything's going to be taken care of. Anyone who was fired during the period.
So the county will get all of its WIC money back.
If they lost any, there's no WIC. WIC won't come up short. It'll all be there. And so everything gets restored, that nothing got hurt through the break, and then they'll move forward from there. But you look at the time frame gets us to January. So what are they going to accomplish here in the next 60 days or less?
Well, it's no different than what they do every time, other than sometimes if they get all the money they want in all of the different places, why then they'll go ahead and, you can tell if it's satisfactory to their, to their own benefit, they'll vote for it and move on. But it's things that aren't satisfactory to their benefit like this, and they decided to shut it down. But, as long as things is going their way, including both parties, they'll vote for it and everything will be peachy keen. But, now they've got a little different administration, and a president that says, we're trying to save taxpayers money, and we're going to take a look at some of this stuff, and that's kind of what they're doing, and then they reduced or cut out the funding for Obamacare perhaps a little bit, and Democrats didn't like that, and so they wouldn't vote for the clean CR, whatever that is.
Well,
I don't think if I'd have got to clean it, it would have been near what it is now.
well, some of these things come full circle, and so I have to bring it back to my concern is, we're still hoping that we get things cleared up through BODA, and that this thing can be solved locally. But the other thing is, if there was discussion that we'll go back, we'll revisit, we'll see if there's some places to cut, and Steve presented this 2000, but it's going to be after the budget's already started and in operation. And what people say, well, I better get this thing that could be on the fringe. I'll go ahead and get that now, and while I still can. And then they say, well, you can't cut that because they've already done that. I mean, isn't it hard to negotiate what you're going to be able to do with the budget already in effect?
It's a way of doing this that I wasn't particularly fond of. I mean, my suggestion was that work should have already been underway, so that you hit the ground running in January with those reductions in place.
Well, not a lot of that is going to depend on, the department heads and the agency budgets and all of that, whether they're willing to help or not, or whether what they sent in for their budget request was funded and they say that's what I need and I can't do anything. I mean, it's already been approved.
Well,
and
the commission can't alter that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, will they? That's the because
that's the
you have to find
$7 million question.
Yeah.
You have to find a department head or an agency that's willing to say, well, yeah, I could operate on a little bit less.
Yeah, well, and that's why, and as I spoke with Kansas Policy Institute rep yesterday, that's why it's important that the commission plays a role during the budget process, and not just a hearing to hear what, but to say, how are we doing things? We want you to stay within these areas and not affect services. Don't say, well, to do that, I have to, figure out a way within these to maintain all services and present us that budget. And I thought what he was saying made a lot of sense. I mean, you listening on that, what were you thinking?
Well, I think it's the way we should be functioning. What we're doing, everyone keeps expecting a different result, but that's the definition of insanity. So it's got to be changed without question. And that's not just the commission, administration, and even department heads are going to have to make some changes about how this budget process is not only viewed, but how it functions. And when the budget is first presented to the commission, that's where you've got to start with the guardrails a lot earlier than that. But there have to be parameters over what's even acceptable to present to the commission. Otherwise you're starting from something that's so far out of
Yeah.
reality that you basically can't function.
You mean like pie in the sky?
That is the word I was looking for.
There you go.
Well, like $7 million in additional spending. We're going to start there. Like that's the starting point. And that's ridiculous. Especially, and again, I'm going to show this a million times, but that's why, you know, year after year after year, they were able to do it and meet the goals and the expectations of the community of what needed to be done and what was going to be taken care of, and added money to a reserve or to the surplus every single year until the first budget controlled year of the trio.
I want to see that next leg on that chart is
The red one?
well, the one that's
Can't.
going to include the 14 mil increase.
That's that
That's
far
there.
right one.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the budget they just passed for 26, they're going to start 26 with 2.37 million in the bank. And if that budget holds true, they're going to end the year and start 27 with 80,000 in the bank. That's their own reporting.
That's with the tax increase.
I can show you that on their paper, their proposal. It's not. It's there.
Okay, I was thinking there was one more go round there.
No, that is it.
That's it.
That 26 budget. So those numbers on the top, that's January 1 of that year. So January 1 of 2024 was the height. That was the 7.68 million in the bank. And then that 24 was this group's, the trio's first year to get to do the budget.
Okay.
So then you look, okay, so then how did they end the year? Well, you look at the top of the next year, how much did they start with? 5.16. Okay, so then they did another year. Well, they start with 2.37. That's what's going to be at the end. That's what's going to be at the beginning of 2026. And if their budget throughout the year 2026, they're going to be down, and the 27 start, the people who will look and have to handle the operation of government then will be working with $80,000 in the bank.
Yeah, but the 26 budget is, I mean, could be, you know, the 27, 28, if it'll end up that $80,000 only if current spending levels continue.
Right, even with that massive tax increase.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I
but-
said once they put that on there, they'll never take it off.
Because their spending goes from like 19 million to 22 million. That's what their numbers show.
So whatever your property tax is today, it's going to be that way from here on out.
Now, I there, at some point, like I read these off, 47, 48, 47. That's
There you
19,
go.
20, 21. Very, very stable.
Yeah.
43, 42, 43 the next 3 years. Very stable. 59.
There you
No,
go.
at 59 cannot be the new normal. Some, and especially if BOTA steps in, they'll throw it back to around that 43 number.
Yeah.
They'll
But
just-
that doesn't mean they have to reduce the spending. That's the problem.
Right. But if they lose that money, and that's part of this budget line and that 2026, you won't be able to cash checks in the general fund.
Correct. There's not enough money to operate the county.
Then you're forced to have to look. So look, if anyone's throwing down the scare tactics of loss of service or layoffs, that scare tactic will become the reality if you didn't do something now while you have money in the bank. You have to do something now.
This all can be solved. Absolutely can be solved. But there have to be 5 individuals willing to make those decisions without outside influences and move it forward in a way that makes fiscal sense.
Yeah. And that's, if you don't find a way to cut $2.5 million in expenses a year, the only way around it is to another massive tax increase. And this one, like I say, I have very little faith this one's going to stick. It's going to take time to get through BOTA with it. But you lose that, and then you got to refund that. Those refunds will come out of that collect.
Yes.
I mean, that's not
Well,
going to be
look
good.
at the additional costs of doing that. You know,
Right.
that's not going to be cheap.
No. And there's even a provision in the law for interest on that money that you took from people that you shouldn't have.
Do you want your interest?
Well, you know, if I had it, I could probably be drawing interest on it right now. You know, that's better to have that money in my pocket than having the money in their pocket, because they're gonna draw interest off of it.
And as a matter of fact, they draw some significant interest. Looking at, for example, in 2019, let's see if I can find on here. Interest on taxes was $242,000. Interest on idle funds was $606,000. So between those two interests, they brought in $848,000.
Well,
That was in 2019.
Currently, the interest on idle funds is running 1.2 to 1.3 million a year.
I was thinking that the county treasurer told me here some time back that she had received about $1 million a year in dividends on investments and idle funds and
So
that kind of thing.
that brings up a question here, because in 24, Todd, interest on idle funds was 1 point. So think about this. Not only are they blowing through the money that they bring into the budget, or that they bring in to fund the government, they're bringing in this extra interest money, and they're blowing that too, because that's part of the income to the county. So in 24, they brought in $1.4 million in interest on idle funds. 1.4, and it had grown every single year from 19 to 24. But then they budget in the current year estimate $750,000. You know it's going to be twice
we're
that.
already above that.
You know it's going to be twice that.
Yeah.
And then they budget in 26, $500,000. So those are ridiculous numbers when you know that you're going to be bringing in more than that.
They help to create a narrative.
And
Did I say that out loud?
Well, that's kind of like the half-cent sales tax. You know, I mean, after a period of years, you know pretty much what that half cent's going to bring in.
right.
You know, and so it looks to me like that. You know, there's $1 million, and they're budgeting for half of that.
Well, we need Todd to get to another meeting, and we can talk about this stuff. We'll continue the conversation on where this money is coming, where's it going, and why are we completely depleting all of our surplus. That's what people are wanting to know, and that's what we're trying to find out for you. But we don't want to send you off without giving you your Squeaky Clean Car Wash weather report. Today's going to be sunny with a high near 76. North wind 9 to 13 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 35. North-northeast wind 5 to 7 miles per hour, becoming calm in the evening. Looking ahead to the rest of your week, Wednesday, talking about a high of 69. Thursday, 70. Friday, 76. Saturday, 72. Sunday, chance of showers, 60 for a high. And Monday, 56 for a high. That's your weather outlook, and that's the news and views you can use on the High Plains, Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning. Until then, this is the Leader in Times with Jim Rice and Todd Stanton, saying when you live in Liberal
Or Broomfield, Colorado.
there's no place like home. Have a great day, everybody.